Well, hello, and welcome to the Lockhart Radio podcast. My name is Felicia Lockhart, and I am your host for the show. Tonight, we are looking at a few things dealing with Linsey Davis as well as the whole entire Trump and Kamala deal. I think we all felt a little uncomfortable the other night while we were trying to uncover exactly what we were looking at while watching the debate. But here's what we're going to do today: we're going to unpack a little bit of what we saw. And I think it's so important for us to do that. The main purpose for wanting to unpack it is because even though we may not be any of their fans, it's important because we really have to be able to see what kind of wool is being pulled over our eyes. Hopkinson, hey, we need to be able to see, Hopkinson, we really do need to be able to see exactly what's what and why it's going on the way that it is. And then, really, I think it's just a really good testament as to how much people honestly do want to have things their way. Now, we did a little story earlier today where we dealt with the topic and the story, and we actually presented the title the way that the author originally wanted it. It was talking about constitutional dictatorship, basically, and I'm paraphrasing there, but it was, constitutional dictator. And exactly, what is that? Somebody even put in the comment, "Oh, that's an oxymoron." Well, yeah, I know, but I'm not going to alter the way the author wrote it. And to be honest with you, they were absolutely right. Because what they're talking about is the ability for a dictator or an individual to use their own laws and their constitution within their country to change the way their country was supposed to be set up. Some of the norms and some of the, um, I guess, fail safe safety measures to prevent individuals from becoming this dictatorial individual. So, right now is a very pivotal time for our country. We've never, that we can remember, I would imagine, most of us, we've never seen anything like what we're dealing with. And tonight, we're going to show you exactly what I mean. The connection between Kamala Harris and Linsey Davis has been out for a couple of days. Now, the AKAs, which is the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, is a sorority that a lot of Black women join while they are in college. It drove me nuts when I was coming up because of the noise that they made. It was this screeching noise. And this young lady is her soror. They are sorority sisters. Once upon a time, that type of situation would have been the first thing that came out of a journalist's mouth when or if they were given the opportunity to sit as a moderator of such an esteemed debate, right? That would have been one of the first things. Had it been me or maybe you, we probably would have led with something like, first of all transparency, I want to let you all know that, Bob the Builder and I are first cousins, or, she and I are sorority sisters. Now, I just want to let everybody know that's not going to have any, bearing on what we're going to do this evening. Be gracious about it. If you do not recuse yourself, be gracious. Unfortunately, the brazen behavior of both our media and government over the past several years has been such that um, nobody has any remorse, nobody has any shame. They just sort of go with the flow and do and say what they want to say. This is not anything that's going to lean toward Trump or lean towards Kamala or even lean against Lindsay. This is just something we're going to talk about tonight, where it says here that, well, she held his feet to the fire. But I'm going to show you that even though she held his feet to the fire, she wasn't prepared for the backlash that she's now going with. Now, what they have done in the media is they've sort of shown you how some people can be very mean and rude and talk about her ethnicity and her gender and things of that nature. She's a female. So, according to one of the articles that we're going to look at tonight, there's some people who are really mean. Now, I will say that as a person who works in this particular field, yes, there are a lot of people, and I was amazed at how many people are very rude and nasty behind the keyboard, how they will choose to talk about a person's ethnicity. And in all their ignorance, they don't even know what the person's real ethnicity is, but they just look at what they think somebody is, and they call them things. And so, yes, I can understand her going through that, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact that it was very unethical and this is my commentary before we get into the articles. It was very unethical of her to accept that position and not tell anybody that she and Kamala Harris were both sorority sisters. Now, Kamala Harris will be 60 next month. This young lady is in her mid 40s. So obviously, they did not cross the line together. But the point is, when you're dealing with sororities and when you're dealing with brotherhood of fraternities, it is important for people to know how people take those things, especially in the Black community. Okay. So I want to take you guys, first of all, to who they are. And there are some very famous individuals who are um, well known. I'm going to show you a picture right now, and then we're going to get into this. All right. So here is the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Now, I am not going to be rude to this organization of women. I'm not going to talk negatively against this organization of women. I'm not going to criticize them, nor will I, with my mouth, say anything negatively about them unless I have had some proof of something negative happening. Okay? What I will tell you is this would not have been an organization that I would have been interested, nor was it an organization that I was interested in joining while attending college. This group of women have done a lot of good things. A lot of them have done some good things. A lot of them have stood up for different philanthropic ventures. Some of these women have gone on to become very famous. But here's the skinny. The two women that we're talking about today that are part of this organization are Kamala Harris and Linsey Davis. Linsey Davis being the moderator on Tuesday's debate, if you could call it that. So having this closeness between the two of these ladies, here's one of the dangers. If there was never anything negative, or if there was never, ever, ever anything shared with Kamala prior to them getting there, because, Disney said that their rules were they were not allowed to share any information. They were not allowed to have anybody coaching them. This right here, not bringing this topic up, it mars everything they thought they were trying to tell us. Not only that, it brings a lot of skepticism on the side of people who would believe, I can't believe that she didn't know any of the answers. Kamala Harris is a person who, without a teleprompter, is not a very good off-the-cuff speaker. That's nothing against her. It's just there are a lot of people who are not well, who don't speak well off the cuff. Some people cannot hold a show by themselves. Kamala is one of those people who, when she knows what she's about to say, she can say that well if she's well rehearsed, which I do believe she was on Tuesday night. But the way she conducted herself on Tuesday night showed me that there was something that she knew. Here's the problem. We cannot, Linsey nor can Kamala, escape the fact that people may now believe that Kamala was given the answers simply because they are sorority sisters, and that was not divulged. Now, somebody would say, well, hey, you know what? They could have found that out on their own if they had just done some research. Why would you want to even have to do any research on something like this? Why would you want to have to do research on the fact that these gals are in the same? Who would ever thought it? You see what I'm saying? Who would have ever thought it? Now, their colors are this magenta or pink and green, the pink and green that you see. And they do a lot of things. They do a lot of things. I don't know. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated convenes the 71st Boule in Dallas, Texas. That was July of this year. They have the, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Happy Juneteenth, and there's a lot of other things. And they show you the regions with which, where they're contained, all the regions and all that stuff. My problem is the fact that that was not divulged. It was not divulged. I have relatives that are in this organization. Not that we are very close or we hang out with each other all the time, You know what I'm saying? Um, but the point that I'm making is my main first off, I respect the elders. I respect elders. And in my culture and in my family, the older black women that I know that are a part of this organization, I will not put my mouth against them, but I'm going to say what's real. And what's real is, with all due diligence, this should have been divulged. With all due diligence, this should have been shared. Because if it wasn't their goal to do something wrong or nefarious, then this right here dispels that to me. I can't tell that you didn't want to do something wrong. Okay. All right. So let's get off of this and let's just go on to the actual articles, okay? Because this is a trip. I already had that information the other day, and I wasn't ready to put it out because I was just going to, bring it up. But now I'm seeing all these other folks bring it up. I'm like, okay, well, let me just give it from the real standpoint, because unless you understand, or unless you've been at a college and you've heard the noise that they make, the screeching noise, and unless you've been at a college and you understand, or unless you've been a part of these organizations or stood around them, you would never realize how close they are. When I tell you they are close, these people don't even have to know each other. And if they go into an arena and they see a pin, or they see a color of something, and they ask the question and the answer is affirmative, whatever they needed, trust and believe in me, they are going to get it. Trust and believe they're going to get what they wanted. First article that we're going to look at is one called It's a Peek Inside Her Agenda. And it's talking about Linsey Davis. All right. Let me see. Hopefully, this is not going to be a messed up one. Yeah, good. Okay. Can I make this where you guys can see it this way? Yeah, I think you can. Let me double check that you all can still see this. Hold up. Okay. There you go. All right. Now, you guys should be able to see that now, and it's big enough so everybody can read it along with me. All right. All right. So let's get into this. It says a peek inside her agenda. Linsey Davis, ABC News correspondent and author. We're only going to read a small portion of this. Loving wife, caring mother, and Emmy Award winning correspondent are all hats that Linsey Davis wears, and she wears them well. Having received 2 Emmys and an Edward R. Murrow Award for her reporting, Linsey has risen to the spotlight, having reported for ABC News, Good Morning America, 2020, Nightline, and more since 2007. Now, we'll go here. She is a member, which is the reason why I pulled this up. She is a member of the National Association of Black Journalists. Now, do you guys remember the other month when the Black journalist was very mean to Trump? All right. First off, we should never have took his rump over there with him. He should have just left that alone. But I understood that he thought that Kamala was going to attend, only to find out later that she was not. Well, she's a member of this organization. This lady is the National Association of Black Journalists. As well, she's a proud member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. This is the print portion that I wanted you to see. Hello to all my mods. Hello to everyone that's here. So this is Michael here? Rage, everybody's here. Hi, blessings to everybody. It's a nice coffee shop of us now. This is like a little coffee shop. I love it. It's 23 of us. I love it. It's really intimate. But this is the organization that he went to speak to when he sat down and the lady just kept cutting him off and she was mean and all that other stuff. And the Alpha Kappa Alpha obviously is what we just got through seeing with the pink and green. Now, she's a firm believer in reaching back and pulling others up. We're going to stop there because here is where I want to show, Daryl, here's where I want to show how she attempted to hold him accountable, and yet she was asked to be held accountable. All right? First things first, I want to get this business out of the way because this is vital. And if you guys have to go, I want to get this out of the way right now. There were a lot of questions and there were a lot of statements that were made the other day. And some of those things were quote unquote debunked, right? Those things were fact checked. Well, here is Minnesota's laws on abortion. I want to read these to you as it comes from their website. Okay. This is based on their laws. And I have to read this because this young lady that we're talking about tonight, quote unquote, fact checked Trump. And you guys, it's really sad because, in as much as I'm going to end up having to fact check him on a couple of things, all right, because the whole um, Canada, Mexico, United States, all in partnership. Now we're looking at companies go over to Mexico, leaving the United States to go over there to do the auto industry and all that stuff with Chinese back and all of that. That's all Trump. So please believe that, unfortunately, they these individuals here that we're talking about tonight have prevented me from even going into that because that's a fact check in and of itself. We cannot fact check just these folks and not fact check Trump, in all fairness, because we got out of one agreement and slid right into another agreement that is now harming Americans that Trump helped sign. Okay. I know a lot of people may not like that, but I cannot sit here and be like everybody else and only talk about one person's side. All right. So now, here is the deal. Let's look at this together. Minnesota's laws. Abortion is legal in Minnesota. The Minnesota Supreme Court and state legislature have both acknowledged that the Minnesota Constitution provides privacy protections that include a pregnant person's fundamental right to terminate a pregnancy. In 1995, the Minnesota Supreme Court recognized a right to abortion under the state constitution in Doe versus Gomez. In Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health of 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court overruled Roe v. Wade and ended any federal recognition of a right to an abortion. Keep in mind, this was the federal recognition. The Dobbs decision returned the issue of abortion regulation and prohibition back to the states. Dobbs had no immediate impact in Minnesota, as abortion rights were already protected under the state's constitution under Gomez. In 2022, a Minnesota court invalidated several state abortion restrictions as violations of the rights to privacy under state law. This included the parental notice statute and requirements that only physicians could perform abortions. Please pay very close attention. Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota used their new majorities in the state House and the state Senate to prioritize abortion rights during the 2023 legislative session. On January 31st, 2023, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz signed the Protect Reproduction Options Act into law. The PRO Act recognized a right to reproductive freedom, including a right to reproductive health care. This covered all health care related to pregnancy, contraception, family planning, sterilization, maternity care, fertility services, and abortion. The state also took steps to repeal several state abortion regulations, including a 24-hour waiting period. The state also passed laws to protect Minnesota healthcare providers who assist out of state patients and to prohibit cooperation with out of state investigations of persons who sought abortion care in Minnesota. Although the state protects an individual's right to choose abortion, it also maintains provisions that allow healthcare providers to opt out of abortion services. Such refusal to participate cannot become the basis of any adverse reaction against them. The Minnesota Attorney General's office provides a helpful summary of recent changes in the state reproductive rights laws. Minnesota abortion laws at a glance. Key Minnesota abortion laws appear in the following table. Now, how does Minnesota compare to other states? With protections of reproductive health care rights in both the state constitution and the state law, Minnesota abortion laws are some of the least restrictive in the United States. Since the Dobbs decision, the majority of the states have legalized abortion up to fetal viability, These are key words for all of us to hear and to consider and to be able to weigh out exactly what it is that we're reading together. The article goes on to say in several states, advocates seek to place ballot initiatives for voters to weigh in on abortion rights. In 2023, for example, Ohio voters became the latest to protect the right of an abortion up to viability. Now, remember, that is also one of the points for Minnesota, up to viability in its state constitution, appending years of restrictions passed by Republicans in the Ohio General Assembly. In contrast, some 17 states have enacted near total abortion bans. For example, in neighboring South Dakota, the only legal abortion is one to preserve the life of the pregnant woman. As a result, pregnant persons in nearby states with abortion restrictions often seek out abortion providers in Minnesota. A note about the medication abortion. Food and Drug Administration approved the common two-drug abortion pill regimen used in the United States in 2000. Since that time, medication abortion has increased in use. Findings in a recent study report that over 60% of abortions today involve medication abortion. In 2022, abortion opponents filed a lawsuit seeking to block the use of mifepristone, one of the two drugs used in medication abortion, with conflicting rulings in the lower courts. The United States Supreme Court has maintained access to the drug while it decides the issue. A ruling is expected later in 2024. Now, when we are looking at this, when we're looking at this portion is going to be explained per se by a lawyer, basically, because this entire appendix is done from a lawyer's standpoint, the entire thing. And I'll leave this down below for you. So now, after the Dobbs decision, many Americans continue to have questions about abortion laws where they live. Those living in states like North Dakota and Wisconsin may not have the same legal protections provided to Minnesotans. If you have concerns about it, then you need to seek out the law. Here is the piece that I don't think anybody really recognizes about their laws. Their laws there in Minnesota do not have any way for making a physician be the only person that can perform an abortion. Let me repeat that. Minnesota is one state that does not require a physician to be the only person who can perform an abortion. They can use anybody that is considered in the medical arena, right? So let me give you a quick example. They can use an individual that is a what are those folks called? They're not a doctor, but they are a nurse practitioner. Yeah, they can use a nurse practitioner. It doesn't have to be done in a hospital either. Here is that piece. Let me share with you. Okay. This struck me as odd. Know your rights to abortion and reproductive health care in Minnesota. Now, we just read about the 1995 decision of Doe versus Gomez. The Minnesota Supreme Court found that Minnesota Constitution guarantees the right of every Minnesotan to terminate the pregnancy. The court explicitly found that the Minnesota Constitution offers a broader protection than the United States Constitution of a person's fundamental right to make reproductive health care choices without the state interference, which is why I found it very curious to hear her talking, and not the other lady, but Kamala, saying that all of these things are true. He's just trying to stop this. He's trying to do this and he's trying to do that. But these things here, because they are rolled out to the states, it's not up to the president to write law. It is up to each state in this case to decide based upon their constitution and the way they voted how they want things doled out in their country. This remains the case despite the United States Court's June 2022 decision in Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization. They still have the right there in Minnesota. There are multiple federal lawsuits regarding the regulation of the drug that we talked about, which was the medication to take by mouth. And of course, we've already discussed that that's going to come out later this year. The Minnesota abortion regulation after the 2023 legislative session. This frequently asked question, when you guys go down below and click this link, is intended to give you a high-level summary of the key abortion legislation passed in Minnesota. In the 2023 legislative sessions, many of the Minnesota's abortion statutes and regulations changed. Most of these changes were included in three significant reproductive health care-related bills. All the changes are in effect as of April of 2023. And last I checked, they're not changed. Section 145.409 of the Minnesota statutes, also known as the Protect Reproductive Options Act, or PRO-ACT, codifies an individual's right to control their own reproductive health. It also plainly states that the Minnesota Constitution, let me make sure that I give this to you guys before I'm just reading it to you, because I don't want it to just be read to you. I want you guys to see this with your own eyeballs. Hold on. Okay? Do you guys see it and can you hear it? Okay, got microphone and audio issues. Yeah, because whenever I'm talking about this kind of stuff, it seems to always do that. And we saw this just recently. So hopefully we can, I don't know, hopefully you guys can hear me now. Is it okay now, Michael? Is that okay now, Michael? Okay, it's good. Okay. And you guys, Buddy is in here. So let me finish. All right. So that you guys can see it. Now it's 5x5. Great. Can you close this, please, folks? Don't open it again. Thank you. All right. I'm going to reread this because I think that it's important, and I hope that's okay with you. Section 145.409 of the Minnesota statutes, also known as the Protect Reproductive Options Act, or PRO-ACT, codifies an individual's right to control their own reproductive health. It also plainly states that the Minnesota Constitution protects the fundamental right to reproductive freedom. Finally, the statute prohibits local units of government from imposing any additional restrictions on access to reproductive health services. The Health and Human Services Omnibus Bill repeals Minnesota's law that required patients seeking abortions to wait 24 hours after receiving a statutory informed consent process, required extensive reporting of abortions by providers, and criminalized abortions under specific circumstances. While the PRO-ACT and the Health and Human Services Omnibus Bill codifies patients' rights to reproductive health within Minnesota, the Reproductive Freedom Defense Act protects providers and patients alike from civil and criminal penalties imposed by the states other than Minnesota. Each of these bills and their most important practical effects on both patients and providers are discussed below. Here's the guidance for patients seeking reproductive health care services. Please get a load of this. Minnesota's standard Minnesota statute guarantees Minnesotans right to make decisions regarding their reproductive health care free from interference by the state. This includes the right to terminate a pregnancy, a patient's decision about whether and when to terminate a pregnancy. Did you hear me? A patient's decision about whether and when. These are legal conversations, and these terms, whether, when, how, those things mean something. Legalese means something. A patient's decision about whether and when to terminate pregnancy is between the patient and their provider. Do you see that part? You come back on the side. Do you guys notice that? Do you see that? Okay. So the audio is still a mess. Let me see what else I can do. I don't know what else to do for the audio. Can you guys hear me better now? If you can hear me better now, let me know. Yeah, I am so passionate and we still get it. Michael, I love you. Okay. Is this better now? Hopefully it's better now because this, if you can't hear me, read the screen because the words mean so much. Okay. Um, I tell you what, if you guys can't hear me, maybe I should just forego being on the screen and let this be bigger and let you guys read it. Would that be good? I don't want those who are driving not to be able to hear it. But anyway, a patient's decision about whether and when to terminate is between the patient and their provider. That is a very pivotal point. The reason why it's pivotal is because it can go as soon or as late in the stage that they want it to. Oh, we're losing people. We're down to 11 folks. I don't think you guys can hear it. And you know what? I'm going to stop and I'm going to come back. I don't want you guys to be at a loss. um, I don't want you guys to be at a loss. Hey, Mark, I'm 5 by 5. Keep going. Thank you, my brother. Okay, I'm going to do that then. All right. So the public assistance is available for qualifying patients to cover or partially cover the cost of the reproductive healthcare services, including the abortion. Low-income patients that qualify for programs such as Medicaid and Minnesota Care may be eligible to receive the publicly funded reproductive health services. The use of these funds is no longer limited to instances of rape or incest or where the pregnant person's health is in danger. This is the statute there in Minnesota. Civil and criminal liability. Civil and criminal subpoenas, judgments, and extradition requests against individuals who receive their reproductive health care within the state of Minnesota are generally not enforceable within Minnesota. Access. Minnesota law no longer requires that abortions be performed in a hospital. These things are important. I hope you guys can hear me now, but these things are important. They do not require that they're done in a hospital, and facilities like birthing centers can now offer abortions. Additionally, now, what is the danger in something like this? When people talk about, oh, they're going to be going back to the days of the coat hanger. They're going to be going back to the days of, people harming people and doing all this other stuff. That's how people end up passing on because anything can happen when you're having any surgery, especially one that's as delicate as this. Individuals can definitely hemorrhage themselves out of here. And when you're considering not having it done in a hospital where you do have other means of saving one's life readily available to include mom, because that's what we're really, we're focusing on mom and baby. But if mom is about to succumb to something major, if you're not inside of a hospital and you're in a birthing facility or birthing center, you'd have to be rushed to a medical facility. And to me, that seems to be something that's archaic. And it's the question that needs to be asked. Why would anybody want to push something like this? If you know that the people are not going to be in a hospital, why wouldn't you want them to be in a hospital? A birthing center is not necessarily someplace that would be a safe place to do something like this type of surgery. But facilities like birthing centers can now offer those services. Okay. Additionally, Minnesota law no longer requires that reproductive health services be provided physically in a facility, and therefore services can be provided via telehealth. Patients are no longer required to receive descriptions of the baby, of the fetus. That's what it says. Okay. Information on fetal pain, or a list of agencies offering alternatives to abortions. They're not giving any of that. Patients are no longer required to receive the description of the fetus, information on fetal pain, or the list of agencies offering alternatives to abortions, or to wait the 24 hours before receiving one. Or the only procedure requirements patients must follow are those of the health facility. This is the Health and Human Services Omnibus Bill, right? That's that. There's all the phone numbers. Here is some guidance for the providers in the reproductive healthcare services. The Minnesota statute guarantees the right for the decision of their reproductive health care to be free from interference by the state. This includes the right to terminate a pregnancy, a patient's decision on whether or when they should have the service done. Now, that is important. That is very vital. Required policies. Again, we've already said they don't have to tell them anything about what they had inside of their body. They don't have to tell them about the pains. They don't have to tell them anything like that that's going to connect them to the human aspect of it. Here are the repealed limitations again. All right. Parental notification. The statute requiring parental notification by providers who counsel unemancipated minor on abortion services or who provide abortion services to an unemancipated minor have been enjoined by a Minnesota judge and is currently unenforceable. The grant program, the Minnesota Department of Health will create an application for sexual and reproductive health services grant program. The grant will fund services including reproductive health education and outreach, contraceptive counseling, STI screening, and referral and follow-up with patients for medical, financial, and mental health services. Now, if anyone has seen my most recent post in my members only for my birthday, because we're doing a 1 year long thing, or however long I can stomach giving up of all of my past pains, you will find some things there about me. And I can tell you that after you have made this type of mistake, this is my personal opinion speaking here, you are going to need to talk to somebody. Because if for whatever reason you've ever had to follow this or do something like this, you will know that it is one of the most life-altering things, and it is what makes me so passionate about talking to young women. Over the years, those are the people that I have had the great opportunity of speaking to and helping. So it is something that, yeah, you do have to speak to somebody sometimes. Applicants that previously received funding under this grant, formerly known as the Family Planning Grants, will not receive priority. Additionally, this funding can be applied toward a new or existing health programs. In awarding these grants, consideration will be given to geographic regions and facilities. So they've already mapped out how they're going to dole out the financial help if it's needed. Protections for health licenses for all of the individuals that are Minnesota Board of Nursing, Minnesota Board of Pharmacy, and how they're going to protect them. So anybody that's getting involved in this are going to be protected. The most important piece that I want to drive home tonight is that when Trump was fact-checked and told that no, nobody gives those types of services, President Trump, that's not true, because clearly you see here that they can. Because nobody has the right in Minnesota, for example, and a few other states, to tell a person when they can or when they cannot. Not to mention the fact that the next story that we're about to look at sort of qualifies what's going on. There was a situation that came up, and it's from the Susan B. Anthony organization that helps with this particular topic. ABC News, after that Tuesday night, was rebuked by a pro-life group. They asked for a correction about the abortion claim made by the debate moderator. Let's take a look at that article because I think it bears being shown. It's important to see it because, like I said, there's a few things that I need to come back to you guys and fact check on Trump because Trump did make a couple of statements that he made. And I do need to clarify that with him, you have to understand that he is not innocent. None of these on this bird are. Have you ever bought a whole chicken? When you get a whole chicken or a whole turkey, you've got two breasts, two wings, two legs, all things being equal, and the chicken wasn't on sale, a special for a one wing bird. But you have one bird and two sides, but it's still the same bird. These two individuals are of one bird, two sides. We cannot just look at the things negative that she's done, unfortunately, because of the sake of time. We're not able to just dig down into everything that he did as well. Yes, a whole duck in the park, Daryl. Okay, so a prominent pro life group isn't happy with ABC News over its hosting of Tuesday's presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Trump. The Susan B. Anthony Pro Life America sent a letter to ABC News President Alman Karamedovic. Okay, I'm saying it as politely as I can because I don't want to badger that person's name. And the debate moderators, David Muir and Linsey Davis, on Wednesday that urged them to issue a correction and meet with the abortion survivors over a viral moment where Davis fact checked Trump. Quote, the ABC News presidential debate featured network moderator Linsey Davis attempting to debunk former President Trump's assertion that some states allow for the killing of an infant after its birth. Susan B. Anthony's Pro Life America president, Marjorie Danisfelser, wrote in a letter obtained by Fox News Digital. During the debate, Trump referred to the infamous comments made by former Virginia Democratic Governor Ralph Northam in 2019, but was promptly fact-checked by Davis. At the time, Northam suggested that in those rare instances of third trimester abortions, a baby could be born alive and a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. Now, that is exactly, in layman's term, what we just read. Now, for monetization reasons, and for me not to have any extra issues, I'm sure that you guys will just appreciate the fact that that is what I needed to read in order to qualify what was being stated by Linsey and by the document that we just read from Minnesota. With that said, you can take the time here as I'm scrolling and read the best to your ability, to the best of your ability, what's been said here, because again, I don't have to read it in order for you to get it. And I know that you guys have already read it, right? Now, what I will do is this quote. She said that this is 100% inaccurate. Her statement tragically ignores the reality of babies who survive failed situations like what we're discussing tonight, but are denied basic care. And you see the rest. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and take that off the screen. Now, it's important for us to understand that these times that we're in are made to confuse the masses. They're made to wear you down. They're made to make you feel like you thought you knew something, but you didn't, because sometimes you may go back and try to find it and you can't find it, or you know what I'm saying, or all of that stuff. The point that I'm making tonight is Linsey Davis held Trump's feet to the fire, but she has a very strong connection with Kamala Harris. Moreover, the connection that she has to Kamala Harris undoubtedly is her reasoning for fact checking, quote unquote, Trump. And she fact checked him in a very incorrect manner, because we can clearly see, based on the information that's been presented tonight from Minnesota, from the attorneys that were giving the outline on the other document from Minnesota, as well as the Susan B. Anthony organization, that the statement that he made was not necessarily incorrect. Moreover, we also see that there is a bias because, according to what we saw at the very top, Linsey Davis is most assuredly a sorority sister, which oftentimes, especially in those organizations, are often more close than actual sisters. I have seen it with my own eyes. So she should have recused herself, and it should have been fair and balanced. The concern is that it wasn't. Are we shocked? No. But I have a strong feeling that all of this is contrived because it could very well be that the divisiveness and the tug of war for this office is being done in such a way and allowing everybody to join in and chime in for one last time to have their freedom of speech thrown into the ring is because very soon things could change in such a drastic way. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me this evening. I want to thank all of you for hanging out with us for the last handful of minutes here. Remember to take care of yourselves, everybody. These times that we're in, you may need to up your water. You may need to do a little extra walking. I know I have. But I want to let you know that the stuff that you see, don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. One bird, two wings is Thunderdome. Two men enter, one man leaves. Welcome to Thunderdome. That's exactly what's up. That's exactly what's up. You guys take care of yourselves because remember, if you don't take care of yourself, ain't nobody else gonna do it. If that hasn't been proven to you yet, I don't know when it will. Take care of yourself, and then you can turn around and take care of everybody else. And until we see each other again, remember to take care of my friend, baby, because my friend is you. Peace. Hey everyone, it's me, Felicia, of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do, because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it. But I don't have to do that anymore because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will.
Lockhart Perspective.